It is wonderful. Okay. So I'm doing this via Google Doc. I originally wanted to draw everything in real time, but that would be 3-year-old Caroline coming out, and we need me to be grounded today. So um let's start from the top. So Soulful CEO formula, right? This is based off of so much. It's not traditional. I'm not going to tell you more to do. What we're going to do is stop doing everything that you've been doing that you never were supposed to do anyway. Um, so everything I'm going to walk you through is built from, gosh, almost 13 years of working directly with the human body in a clinical setting. In addition to food science research, agriculture research, almost a decade there, and then my own clinical research, and I have published research. A lot of sciencey stuff, right? So I saw a lot of things with a very critical eye of, okay, what theory am I trying to prove? What am I looking at? What am I seeing? And so that's what I'm bringing to you today. There's invisible patterns that are going to quietly shape how people move through the world. And there's a lot of information that's great information out there, but there's a few critical missing pieces, and I'm going to fill in those pieces today, specifically around what happens in the body that pulls us away from what we were put here to do, especially as women. So this mechanism has helped women collapse timelines, access the deeper knowing inside, the clarity, cleaner decisions, real alignment. But let's be real, love and money. Hello. Anybody not want more of that in their life? That's the good stuff. And they hold hands like this, and I'll connect those dots too. So everybody here was built for more. I haven't met a woman yet who wasn't built for more and who, from my standard, is a soulful CEO, meaning she runs her own life on her terms and it moves at the speed of her soul. So here's how I'm going to approach today. I'm going to guide you through the framework that's saved so many years. I've spent a ton of years studying this and figuring it out, so I'm going to save you a lot. And then what you're going to see is where your own energy is misfiring in real time. We're all energy. Learn this in chiropractic school. Uh, Electricity is the only thing keeping us alive. And so when there's misfires or things aren't connected properly, like imagine a home that's got an electrical outlet that's not quite right, everything goes wonky. So we're going to see where the energy is misfiring and what pattern's been running the show. And I'm going to walk you through the one move that flips the whole board. It's really that simple, but not easy. What we do as humans is complicate everything, because the moment something gets simple, it's like, oh, I can do so much more. Let me do all the things I was doing. So I'm going to simplify. I'm going to simplify as much as I can. And so there's going to be space to reflect, unpack, and process. And then at the end, there's going to be a clear invitation to go deeper if it's for you. No pressure. But this is going to be where everything starts moving faster and shifting, not from effort, but from alignment. So the goal, it's not about fixing mindset. It's not about another framework to follow, even though I'll call it the formula. You all have the blueprint in you. It's just what's covering it up and causing the misfires. So this is about identity and who the true version of you is under the noise, and what's possible when your energy moves from the purest form of you. Um, so again, the goal is to show you where your energy is misfiring and how to shift in real time using your one move. When that happens, everything changes. This is where more money comes in without overgiving. This is where more freedom comes in without forcing. And this is the life that actually feels like yours. And on the other side of that is the new problem of, am I allowed to have this? So that's the next problem. But we're not going to talk about that yet. So you're not going to walk out of here with more to do. You're going to walk out knowing exactly what to stop doing. And one shift that brings everything into alignment, you're going to feel it in your body. You're going to connect with that personal power. So, more money, deeper love, creative freedom, business that flexes for you, actually money on your terms that evolves with your soul. That. So, the mechanism, right? Most of you have taken the quiz. And if you haven't, it's okay. I'm going to walk you through this. And I went from right to left because that's how my brain drew it. When I finally started doing things the way I wanted to do, I put everything in in here on paper. And the person who told me to do that, I think they meant an 8 by 11.5 or 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. But what happened was like a 4 foot by 6 foot piece of contractor's paper. And now there are 7 of them. And now this is the only way I will make my mechanism, because it's me. I used to draw. I love color. It's bringing all of my creativity in the same place, but I'm also a researcher. My South Node is Sagittarius, for any of you astrology people, and my North Node is Gemini. So that's a hard switch, but it's both together. So my science brain and my creative brain come together to make it make sense. So the mechanism, and this is the first technology swap. So here we go. Can y'all see this? Can y'all see the zoom in?
Looks good.
Beautiful. Okay. So rough cut, I didn't do any editing because I didn't want to. So this is most likely a version of what y'all saw when you took the quiz, right? There's 5 categories. There's identity, there's emotional mastery, there's energy management, there are relationships, and then there's business. Now, I don't even like the word business, but I'm going to redefine it probably over the next 12 weeks. So business is nothing more than a reflection of all of those things put together in purpose, passion, mission, vision. And purpose is inside of all of you right now. There's nothing to find. Passion is directly correlated with emotional mastery. How connected are you with what really lights you up? And then vision is nothing but purpose with a picture. That's it. That is it. So this little section right here, the way I designed it, it's not just a little personality test. It's a, how are the 5 categories of life of a soulful CEO functioning? If y'all are familiar with the 5 core functions of business from Alex Sharfin, I looked at this through this lens because things will always move. There's just going to be a lag indicator and something taking more energy than it's returning on. So if we're going to talk money, because most people understand dollars, it's very quantifiable. This category is the one taking all the energy that's not returning on investment, if that makes sense. So that is where we apply your one move. Now it seems really simple, right? I'm going to walk through why it's not on one's own here in a bit, but I want you to see the simplicity of the formula. All the formula is, all right, here's my quiz results. Again, it's a snapshot in time. This category today is sucking X amount of energy and it's not returning anything to me. So this is where I'm going to apply the focus and energy I do have on repeat. And what happens then is this category rises. And here's how neurology works. Here's the rules that neurology follows that most don't understand. When this category rises, your whole body's like, well, the way we do one thing is the way we got to do everything. So everybody else got to catch up. That is exactly how it works. But here's what most people try to do. They will say, well, this one stinks. This one's pretty good. Maybe I'll work here because this is easy today. But that's getting hard now. So I'm going to go here. Well, this one really needs the most work. So I'm going to try that. So nothing actually changes. It's like jumping from category to category to category. And that's not how neurology changes. There's three very specific steps that we'll get to. But the way you change at a neurological level that translates to the 3D that most people want to escape from, because it's like, how the heck do we do this? That was me, by the way, is you apply the one move via precision there. And it's very specific. You do it on repeat. What this does is it changes the amygdala set point. We get over here and then your whole identity shifts and you're on a new game board. I wish I could see your faces, but I can't. So we'll be covering where we start, what we do, shift the set point. Got it, y'all? I can't see anybody's faces. So, make sense? Cool. All right, so let's define a soulful CEO. So I probably need to do that, right? She doesn't follow anybody else's path. She's here to do what she's here to do. She knows who she is. She may forget sometimes. If you're familiar with human design, there are defined categories and undefined categories, or defined centers and undefined centers. The undefined is where we feel not enough and where we try to be everything we're not. The defined is where we'll feel like we're too much and we have to shrink to make everybody else feel better. Human design is based on who are you as a healthy human and how energy moves through you. So that's a great visual representation of energetic flow. You don't have to know what it is, though, to make this work. So a soulful CEO, she lives life fully expressed, deeply aligned, and wildly alive, according to her. And she's going to say no to anything that doesn't light her up, because she filters everything through her deepest values. Now, values are the second deepest drivers of unconscious action, which that's what we're going to get into today. But when she says no to what doesn't light her up, she says yes to everything that's for her. And that means relationships deepen, creativity expands, income rises, not because she's chasing, but because now she's anchored to everything that was hers from the beginning, that was either conditioned away or covered up. So that version of you is not a far off fantasy. She's already there. It's just her without the noise. It's you without the noise. And we're going to walk through that looks like. So if you're like, my gosh, I've got glimpses of her, or I want to meet her, or all these categories are doing good and this one is dragging me down, or all these categories are trash right now and there's the one that's good. How do I just make it all good? We're going to get there. We're going to get there. So this is where the pattern gets clear and the shift will begin. So she's rooted in truth, wholeness, and precision from herself, and then things overflow from there. So the quiz covered it a little bit, but you probably had a moment of, oh, that's why things fell off. Or maybe you didn't. You might have been like, I don't even know what this means right now. I haven't even, it's kind of blurry. But again, if you haven't taken it, no worries. So I'm going to walk through what it shows you. It's going to go through the invisible patterns again, draining the energy that caps momentum very quietly. It can be loud, but it's usually quiet, and that's usually the quietest drain. So it's going to show you why things that should be easy still feel hard, where your time, money, and energy is going down the drain, not on purpose, without even realizing it, and what's keeping you in the loop of effort instead of riding the wave of momentum that's going. So when you see where the link is, that's where you know where to apply the one move. And again, it's simple, but not easy. So Caroline Dean's actually the example here. Applying this, she doubled her income in 4 weeks. And then it was still hard for her to accept that that was reality. It's wild. That's what the amygdala does, right? It talks you out of everything. It's like, no, that wasn't really the case. I actually had a client call yesterday, and she gave me permission to share. She had a son that they took a risk and did some of this, and schizoaffective disorder disappeared in less than 2 weeks. And so like, but what she did was try to figure out everything else that it could have been, right? Even though they had tried everything for years. So, I mean, this is what the amygdala will do. It will talk you into things are still the same, or it doesn't matter. So I'm going to stay right here. So that's what the human brain will do. And that's what we're going to dig into, what will keep you convinced that it can't be that easy and it can't be that good. So when the misfire goes, the energy flows, money follows. So does love, because they're like this. And when you stop fighting your own system, things get really good. So let's zoom out real quick. So we're not fixing anything that's broken. Nobody's broken. It's just about who you're becoming at the deepest level possible. And the amygdala set point, that is the thing that's going to control how much success, ease, and expansion that you allow as a human. And I was going to do one of these at a time, but I decided to just give you the whole picture. So let's walk through this quickly. Where is that? Cool. So we're going to get to character player programmer in a second here. These are essentially correlating with Soulful CEO, Overthinking Optimizer, and Hijacked Hustler. way more fun names than character player programmer, but I wanted to simplify because when I explain this, everything's going to make a lot more sense and it's going to be pretty easy. So this is supposed to be a person, right? But I lovingly call it my gingerbread man. So if you've watched the first video, you know what these things mean, but if not, I'll review you real quick. This right here is representative of about the 20, I believe it's about 25% allocated to the 13 systems that run your body that keep you alive, your heart, your liver, your lungs, metabolism, all those things. This is critical material. We don't want this getting touched by anything else. So that's why the body from the beginning stores everything you learn from 0 to 7, specifically 0 to 3, so that you don't have to get into this critical material to figure things out. So everything stored here is going to be what your amygdala remembers about love, money, and happiness and health. And this starts in the womb, and it's fully locked in from the amygdala perspective without anything else by 3. So this piece of neurology, there's actually 2 of them, but it's way more fun to point at one thing than 2. So we're going to act as if both amygdalas are just one big annoying thing. Can work for you though. So this thing is stored in this body, plays out here, controls this. Everybody got it? I can't see anyone. Can somebody say yeah? If you get it. I'm going to trust that everybody got that. So this right here is all of the programming that your body stored to fully survive to the best of its ability and even thrive in the environment you were born into, even prior to birth. And we'll get a little deeper into that story in a second, but this is prior to memory. So you're not going to remember what happens. You're not going to have words because it's also pre-verbal. So the only thing left is body feelings, and enough of those, and they look like a diagnosis. Now, disclaimer right now, I'm not a medical doctor. I am a doctor of chiropractic still. I don't work with this stuff anymore because from my perspective, most of us fall into managing physical problems that are a function of amygdala hijack, but I can't say that with medical backing. There are plenty of books on it. The medical system has a lockdown on a lot of this for different reasons. Several of you know why. But I'm here to empower everyone and know exactly what's happening in their body. And one of the strategies the amygdala will run is create physical symptoms that will deter you from anything that you didn't survive from 0 to 3. So if family didn't have plenty of money, more than enough money, it won't feel safe. If family didn't have a nice, open, loving relationship, that won't feel safe. If everyone wasn't happy and healthy and striving for more and expanding, that doesn't feel safe. So what does your body do? First line of defense is talking you out of it, and I'll walk through that, what that looks like. Second line of defense is physical symptoms. And this can look like anything, and I'll walk through that later. Hopefully everybody gets that. So let me stop. Ooh, oh no, that is not what I wanted to do. Okay, cool, cool. I put it on Roku for a second. I don't even know where that is. All right, everybody good? Everybody good? Give me a thumbs up. Cool. All right, so here is the formula, right? Well, these are the 5 core functions of the Soulful CEO. Identity's at the top there. It was locked in by 7. This is directly correlated with what your mother and father reflected back to you. So if you were told you're fine, get back up. If you were crying and you fell on your knee, well, that's gaslighting. It doesn't feel nice to say that, but essentially, if you look at that, the child's reality is denied. So whatever was reflected back to you from mom and dad, that's going to be how you see yourself and how you show up in the world. So things have to, changing at the identity level is the most empowering place. And interestingly, most people looking to do business differently, identity is the holdup. Most of the time, not all the time, but that's usually the one place, because what happens is most of us are taught to wait to feel like we're the person, or wait till we're the person to do the thing. It's backwards. You do it the other way around. And so it takes a fair amount of cognitive dissonance to feel like I can't do that yet. The only way to teach your amygdala and your set point that this is safe is to do what feels unsafe. And figuring out what's actually safe and what's actually unsafe is the trick. Because there is an entire system in this body dedicated to make sure that you stay safe with what you survived from 0 to 3 specifically, and 7. But by 7, you have a critical faculty and you can think for yourself, and now you have memories. The prior to memory is the kicker. So, real quick, identity, it's how you see yourself. It's what your parents reflected back first. Emotional mastery, how connected are you to your internal world? How connected are you with all the emotions you feel? Do you react to them or do you feel them and not judge them and honor what's happening? Energy management, what are your boundaries with yourself and others? Where are you putting constraints in for yourself to serve you? Relationships, that's just how you relate with other people based on these 3. And then business, just a reflection of vision, passion, purpose, and essentially it's relationships with money. That's it. So we got boundary problems in relationships, we're going to have boundary issues here. We got boundary issues, period, we have an energy management problem. We got an energy management problem, we have an identity issue, thinking I have to do X, Y, Z to be, blah, 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 blah. So it goes on and on. If we got emotional mastery issue, we're going to deal with everyone else's stuff and not our own. Moving on. So, yeah, that's how you're going to show up in those areas. All right, let me make sure I skipped ahead, y'all. All good. Bigger picture. Here is a visual of where about 115 people stacked up. Now I lost 40 of them learning technology, right? So there was more like 200, but out of 150, 4% of women are living as a soulful CEO. 65 are living as a hijacked hustler, and I believe 35 are living as an overthinking optimizer. Now, this isn't good or bad. It's just a wake up call of, wow, where's my energy going? And is it working for me? Or am I pouring out of myself to go everywhere else, hoping that at some point it will shift? So, what this means is most women are making decisions from patterns they didn't choose, but that were built from survival, and structuring life around survival mode without meaning to, or staying stuck without meaning to, or creating a structure of stuck or a structure of survival with by default on accident, not intentionally. So I don't want to help just one person break that cycle. I want to hold that room full of women who are like, I got this. I know how to run this loop. Here we go. And when that happens, modeling is the most powerful form of teaching. And other people are going to come into play, right? And this is where letting other people be disappointed and feel their own shit, excuse my French, comes in. That's when things change, is when women step into their soulful CEO and let the world shift around them, including other people. And we'll get into why that's so difficult here in a second. So, sacrificing truth to be successful? Not anymore. So there's going to be an invitation at the end. It's going to be about real calibration. If it's for you, you'll know. I'll give you an option. You'll know what to do. But for now, we're going to deliver right here. So let's see where I am. Yep. So here's the deal about hijacked hustler. It's just constantly putting out fires, trying to keep it all together. That was me for like 15 years. I lived in burnout versus massive action, burnout, massive action, burnout, massive action. Anything else felt boring, really. And my need was uncertainty there, but I was looking for it in business or relationships. And that's how I was programmed. And that's what I tried to get away from. But the moment I got away from it, I just recreated the whole thing. Because that's what happens with cycles unintentionally. Overthinking optimizers trying to solve everything with strategy and actually getting nowhere. Soulful CEO is learning how to run the loop and figuring out in real time, do I activate my character, my player, and programmer, and in what order? And what is the one move that'll shift this whole thing? Soulful CEO knows how to identify a programmer moment because she already knows her particular brand of hijack, and she knows the category of life that's going to move the needle. That's the formula in a nutshell. That's it. Makes sense to everybody? Simple enough so far? Cool. So, here's the story. Actually, let's get into what's the amygdala. I already talked about it a little bit. It's an almond-shaped organ. It's one of the first to form in utero. I believe it's at 3 months. I looked it up at one point, but like that's not really going to make a change here. So I decided to focus on what's pertinent for change versus factual information down to the day. I'm ditching the doctor stuff, right? Not really, just the important pieces. So it's responsible for emotional memory, pattern recognition, perceived safety, and it decides in milliseconds if something's safe or threatening. So before you can think, it's already decided. A visual, your body perceives 3 million exabytes of information per second, and that's hard to wrap your mind around. So let's simplify it. Let's go from like that many parts to 5 to 7 that you can actually focus on. 5 to 7 versus 3 million exabytes would be the equivalent of handing you 172 toothpicks every second. Still a lot, right? That's what your conscious mind can sift through if it were to have no filters. So you got filters. Your body does it for you. And it's not 172 toothpicks, it's 3 million of them. Actually, whatever an exabyte is that. So it's a lot. And it decides before you can what's safe and what's not. So the amygdala is fully functional before you're born. It's absorbing everything in the womb. It precedes language and memory. And most of your baseline safety is around success and connection will have been taught through experience in utero and to 3. So that's why we can't mindset our way into expansion. That's why we can't affirm our way into expansion. That's why we can't connect to our higher self on our way to expansion, even though it's nice, it's part of it, yes. But the thing keeping us from it is living in the body and on guard 24/7. We also can't surgically remove it, but we can get close. We can get really close, but we cannot surgically remove it because you wouldn't want to. You can even have your prefrontal lobotomy taken out, which is your thinker. But if you take your amygdala out, you're like a vegetable. So you want it, but it can also be problematic if you don't know how to work it. So you have to actually start with that thing that's responsible for the wiring. So here's the story, right? And I may have to break this down on the iPad because it's pretty cool if you zoom in. From the moment you were conceived, you were taking in messages, right? I call this parent programming. It's more like grandparent programming and generational programming. So the moment you were conceived, your environment was imprinting all the messages on you. If your mom was stressed or anxious or emotionally unsupported, you're going to absorb that and learn how to cope. Those things called hormones, those are byproducts of emotions that are a byproduct of environmental triggers, and it's all connected, which is why only addressing emotions, only addressing hormones, only addressing environment isn't going to solve the problem. Have to get to the root and disrupt it at the base, at the root. So all of these other things that a lot of people focus on are byproducts. Yeah, they're totally important and they can help, but that amygdala still got memory stored. So when your mom's inside your grandma, you're already there too. I believe it's second trimester. Again, I don't remember this and I didn't go and look it back up again. But at some point, when your mom is inside your grandma, you are also an egg. So you are absorbing whatever happened in grandma too. So you're going to inherit about 3 generations of nervous system conditioning before you make a single choice, which is why this stuff gets so deep. I'm seeing the chat. Are we all good, Caroline? Okay, cool, cool. I'm just going. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. So this conditioning, it doesn't just show up in love and money. It's going to show up when your partner gets close and actually gives you what you want. And then instead of leaning in and softening and being like, oh my gosh, finally, your body maybe clench up and be like, this isn't safe. What did they do? Like, why are they being nice to me now? What's happening? That happens, right? Flinch, pull away, get defensive, even though the deepest part of you wants that. It's like, wait, why now? What's happening here? What do I need to know? Right? And then maybe downplaying your needs because somewhere along the line you learned asking for support wasn't safe. Maybe you got yelled at, maybe you were gaslit, maybe you were told that's not important. Why would you want that? So these are learned things that are meant to keep you safe. On that trauma thing, that red stuff in gingerbread man that we can go back to, that started out as intelligence. That started out as generational intelligence. And at the point that it no longer aligns with what you want as a soulful CEO, now it's trauma. And I call it trauma because it's actively pulling you back, which working relentlessly toward what you want and just not getting it for whatever reason, that's kind of traumatic to me. It's like, why am I existentially broken? No, you're definitely not. And there are two major human fears. I'm broken beyond repair, and if I lose control, everything will fall apart. So those two things typically activate when your amygdala fires off and your body's like, whoa, we haven't survived this yet. Let's go back to familiar hell instead of unfamiliar heaven, because we don't know what that looks like. That could be worse. So, um, so the imprint's not going to be just emotional. It's going to be biochemical and neurological. I believe the words neurobiochemical. There's a big long word that combines psychology, neurology, biochemical stuff, and I don't remember the word right now, but they're all connected. Dr. Gomorrah Monte talks about it a lot. So it's going to become the default language your body speaks when it comes to success, love, safety, and receiving and getting what you want. So struggles always felt familiar, or overworking has always felt familiar, and ease feels really suspicious and like something's going to happen. There's going to be another shoe drop. This can't be that easy. Hard work pays off, right? That's not mindset. That's your amygdala set point. So, and this is why rewiring the amygdala, it's not optional if you want to grow without sabotaging yourself on accident. So if your body's calibrated for survival, it's going to keep dragging you back, even when your vision is trying to pull you forward. And that's where you can feel like the tension and the pressure. And part of me is over here and part of me is over here. And like, if I keep stretching, what am I going to lose over here? But if I go back over here, I'm going to lose myself. What do I do? That's that tension. I don't know if any of you have felt that, but I suspect you have felt at least two major points of tension in two opposite directions, maybe 10. So that's what that looks like. So on hijack, when your body registers expansion from where you came from, right? Expansion past the game board it memorized from 0 to 7, whether it's more visibility, more money, more intimacy, more ease, that's going to be considered a threat. Whatever is outside of the realm of what it memorized for you to live forever will be a threat. So even if your logical brain is screaming, yes, this is exactly what I want. I want the love of my life. I want a family. I want a 10,000 a month starter. I want like, I just want things to be easy. If that wasn't the case, your body will fight it every step of the way. And this is where hijack will pull you straight into survival mode. So this will look like procrastination, over-explaining, avoidance, control, shrinking. And the wild part is it's going to happen before you realize it. This is like a third order reaction. And I do have a picture in here. It may be helpful to show y'all. Do y'all want to see what this looks like in real time? Just like see a visual? Okay, let's do that. I'm already there. Let me mirror this. Look at me already going off in the weeds, but I feel like we need to go here. So, oh, by the way, that's the garbage you don't even know you're dealing with that I walk through in my blueprint program. So it's not you, it's this. Got it? Where did it go? That's not it either. Where are you? Picture? Oops. Here we are. All right. So this is that's not it either. Sorry, y'all. Did I put it here? Oops. Here it is. Okay. All right. Y'all see this one? Cool. So change, you can kind of see it. We're going to call this $1 million. Wow, that's really bad handwriting. $1 million, or dream man or Maui home, whatever it is. Opportunity for that comes in, right? Here's what happens. This thing right here is your body. This is your body. Something different than what you experienced in the womb to 3 and 7 comes in. Your body's like, wait, hold the phone. What is this? See all these little activation things? This is your sensation, a visceral sensation. Your gut punch, stomach jumping up into throat, blood pressure raising, face flushing, like needles all over your body at once, immediate. The thing that the word happens to be is immediate, like whatever that looks like, immediate panic. That is lightning fast. It is the fastest receptors in your body that exists. So what that does is tells you we are unsafe. We don't know what kind of problems comes with this, but they got to be really bad because we haven't survived them before. That man's got to be the devil in disguise. This money's got to come with like all the things we don't want to do in selling our soul. And this Maui home, it's probably going to burn down tomorrow if we buy it or if it's gifted to us. So it comes in, registers with the body, hits a visceral response that is undeniable. After that lightning sensation happens, it goes to the right side of your brain. I'm breaking this down simply, right? Like if a neurologist were to explain it, there would be a lot more steps, but we're here for simplicity. Right side of your brain, there's that little amygdala, right? This is really fast. This is the reactive piece that feels the emotions. And in the amygdala story, whatever emotions were coupled with stepping outside of safety, that's going to be what's activated right here. And then after the emotions are felt, if they last longer than 90 seconds, there's a lot more than just an emotion happening because it takes 90 seconds to process. It's called a secondary or tertiary emotion. Goes over here to the logical side of the brain, and now we start putting meaning to it. Wow, that wasn't safe. I've heard all sorts of things about what happens with millionaires. They turn into awful people, or I just like this isn't what I'm used to. There's got to be something going like something is going to happen at the logical level to make not going for this make sense because it wasn't safe at a deep level. So if we take all this writing away, I need to find a faster way to do this. Change comes in, opportunity comes in, body's like, whoa, we haven't survived this yet. Freak out, sends message to the emotional side of the brain. The amygdala is like, yep, we haven't survived this for. Alert the other side so that the decision maker calls it off. And full hijack equals the different decision than you were gonna do. That's all it is. Now, most people think hijack and think the little guy on the inside out whose mind, like his little head's exploding and he's fuming fire. Hijack can be really quiet. And I define hijack as whatever is taking you away from what you were going to do the first time. And then once it happens over and over again, now belief is built around, it's just never worked out. All it is real-time collection of data that doesn't even matter. So I really went on a tangent there. I'm glad I have 2 scripts to follow, even though I've gone on a tangent there, y'all. All right. So let's give some examples. Money/business example. Let's say you get a chance to pitch an offer or ask for a raise or ask for more money, right? You got the skills, it's a perfect fit, it makes sense, it's what you need. And then instead of confidently owning it and letting the other person decide, you backpedal, you overtalk, you start overthinking, you doubt yourself. Relationship example. Maybe your partner shows up with more affection than usual and they're doing everything you want. And instead of leaning in, your body tenses up instead of softening and they offer support and you push it away because, well, that wasn't safe when I was little. So what's about to happen to me now? It just doesn't feel safe. So it's not a personality flaw. It's not even a, wow, I am inadequate to catch us in the moment flaw. It is a system imprint. That's all it is. It's a system imprint. So amygdala activation, before hijack takes over, there's going to be a moment most people miss. And it's called activation. It's the very first physiological response to change, risk, or visibility. And it's going to happen before thought and logic and before you know what's going on. So for example, tight chest, racing heart, weird tension in your gut, the sound of the sudden hit of hesitation. This is the most commonly confused with intuition. can't be right. Like it just doesn't feel right. That's amygdala hijack or activation. That is not intuition talking. Intuition is very quiet and it'll usually say something once and then it'll totally let your amygdala take over. So the body is way louder than intuition, by the way. The emotions will pile up after this. That's where anxiety and overwhelm and frustration and shame come in. So finding ways to soften these is amazing, but it's really easy to fall into third order problematic management. That was me. Anxiety and depression, it's really easy to fall into just managing activation that looks like that. And not to diminish it, right? They're real. And there's always a good reason for them. But if you want to move past it, there's going to be steps and there's orders and rules to follow. So, after all that emotion, this is where your brain determines this isn't working. I should slow down. Maybe I'm not ready. This is where activation isn't the problem. The problem is your thinker took the wheel and decided it was time to stop going for the thing you needed to do. So this is your nervous system flagging something as unsafe. And then there is a really elegant, fast protocol that will kick off for everyone. And it's just neurology, that's it. And there are very specific steps and everyone has their brand of hijack. So let's talk about the spectrum. Probably need to speed it up because I want to get to questions. So they don't all look like panic. Some are really obvious, some are really sneaky, and some look like shutting down, and some look like, wow, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to really feel into this. That can even be it, by the way. Some look like trying really hard and getting nowhere. That was my brand, especially annoying. I'm going to put all this energy and then get nowhere. So I'm going to walk through the spectrum. Most don't realize they're stuck in it until it's named. So this is where your nervous system says, nope, too much, too risky, too fast. And then you pull back. I literally had a client one time. She told me what she needed, right? And I was like, great, here it is. Exactly what she spelled out. Instant overwhelm. She's like, it's too much. Even though she knew, the soulful CEO in her knew that's what she needed to rise to that next identity. A year later, she came back and now she's doing the dang thing. But this is how strong hijack is. This is how strong those imprints are that are running at the neurological level, the deep level. So the freeze hijack, you shut down, you ghost the action that you were going to take. You freeze and scroll instead. Sometimes I still do that. You go into your head, like, look, we all got our mechanisms, right? I can at least now be like, wow, I'm really activated. I don't really know what to do. And I need to calm myself. It's either a walk, I'm going to scroll, or I'm going to like go do something to get out of my head and into my body. But I got to like living here is not helping me. So, you go into your head, you think you're processing, but really you disappeared. Processing doesn't happen up here, by the way. It happens in here and out there. This is not processing. This is checking out, using your brain as a reason to stay here and build things that don't exist yet, usually problems. So there's the productivity hijack, staying busy, all the wrong kind of motion. Maybe you clean your house, rework your offer, redesign your logo. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to drop the blueprint. Caroline, did you drop it? You can come off mute.
I will put that link in here.
Cool. Y'all, we meant to put this at the beginning. My bad. This is the blueprint offer that I'll cover at the end, but in case you want to peruse it now, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it. So let's get back to this. Control hijack. Getting super meticulous with your process, convincing yourself you're just being thorough. And this is where your nervous system safety strategy lays. You're trying to outrun the unknown by micromanaging every detail. And so you stay stuck micromanaging. Essentially, this is researching and never doing anything. I lived this for almost 10 years, researching the same thing to prove and reprove and reprove and never actually doing anything differently. That's the foundation research. One reason I got out of it. There is the easing off hijack. This one's super sneaky. This is a hard line to follow. This is a hard line to walk. This takes a lot of attunement to self and consistent stretching. You finally get traction, right? Things are moving, then you let up. You say, okay, I'm just resting, or I'm just regulating myself right now. But deep down, you know, you were right there and you eased off just enough to stay safe. Look, hijacks have their timeline too. You can't control everything. If we're going to be real, this event is so different than what I've done before. I was hijacked for like 2 weeks and I wanted to like change it, but I couldn't because the only thing that would prove to me that I'm going to survive doing it differently is actually delivering the workshop and realizing no one's going to die and no one's going to hate me and no one's going to get angry that I did things. I had to get to the workshop first before all of the tension that I was feeling would dissolve and transmute. So there are sometimes things in life that you can't get through until the thing plays out. And that's where emotional mastery comes in. Make sense to everybody? Cool. All right. So each of these has the same root. Your body's not going to feel safe with what you say you want or what you know you want. This isn't something you push through or override. You're not going to affirm your way out of it. You got to reset it. So let's go. If you're like, let me go. Let's get to the Soulful CEO framework. Again, it's not you. It's not you. It was stuff programmed in you never asked for. We're going to skip to the character player programmer. Essentially the framework, it's in the blueprint, the doc that's dropped, how we solve this in real time, and I'll cover it here in a second. But here's the character player programmer. There's 3 ways to show up in life, right? All of them create a different result. All of them are required. Most people are stuck in character. Y'all saw that little 65% in hijacked hustler mode, right? Some people get into the player and then some people finally hit the programmer mode. But let's walk through this. So character mode, I'll draw this in a second. It's pure reactivity. You're surviving here, operating from old emotional residue, unprocessed experiences, and outdated identity patterns. It's the version of you that was programmed to stay safe at all costs, even if it meant staying stuck. So this is what character mode sounds like, right? I'm going to go ahead and pull this up because where is character mode? Here we are. Can I go backward on this? Nope. Okay. So character mode, we're down here. Sounds like I don't know why I keep doing this. I thought I'd be done over this by now. I don't know what to do. I just can't seem to get past this. Your body is running all the show here. And this is playing catch up all the time. But your amygdala also lives here. So it's very important. The only way to change things is through here. Player mode, this is zooming out. This is the party that can see the board and you can see their strategic moves to make. You're a very capable human. You know you're smart. You're going to start asking better questions. What's really going on here? What's the pattern? What do I want to do differently? But the catch is the player can only play inside the rules she's been given, dictated by the Lord amygdala. So, whatever rules this is memorized are going to be enforced here. So if you're building strategies, what ends up happening is you build better strategies to stay stuck. This is what they call the golden handcuffs or the golden prison in corporate world and business world. Building a thing that is big and beautiful and ensures that you stay stuck where you are trying to get away from. That's what I built. Then I exited. And this is where a lot of high impact women get stuck. And this is where someone will have a massive skill stack, but doesn't know what to do with it and doesn't know how to charge for it and feels like I don't even know what to do here. So the skills leveled up, but the underlying code hasn't shifted. So it still feels hard, fragile, unsustainable, afraid to stop or do things differently because surely it can't be that easy. And programmer mode is where everything changes. Programmer doesn't ask, how do I fix this? She asks, what do I really want to, what reality do I want? How do I want to show up? How do I want the world to bend around me? What am I going to do about this? She rewrites the code first behaviorally, then neurologically, then energetically. I got that backwards for so long. And this is where she creates her identity and decides what gets to be true and calibrates everything in her life to match. This is where business gets easy and where relationships deepen and where the vision will pull you forward instead of you chasing it. So this is where everything comes together. How do I stop? Here's how it all comes together. This is the most simplified version. Amygdala lives here in the character. It will hijack. It has to change anything. What most people do is live their lives avoiding hijack. And I'm going to show you one more model on this so you can see the full thing. Hijack has to happen. This is the programmer moment and where you can change the game in reality. Y'all remember where Neo got the thing plugged into his head in the Matrix and all of a sudden he knew jujitsu and everything changed and all of a sudden he could do things that he couldn't do before? That's this moment. You have to rewrite it in reality before it will change at the deeper level and then the world will shift around you. That's the programmer moment. That's where the game board changes. That's where the code is rewritten. And then you apply the new rules in real time via player mode. It's not an ascension. It's not a hierarchy. It's a loop. And most people get this backwards. Most people try desperately to avoid this. We have an entire healthcare system built around this. I couldn't help but say it, y'all. I couldn't help but say it. There's an entire system built around managing this. And yes, it's important to manage, but when you know how to step on the other side of it and change your own matrix in your own world, my gosh. Let me take you to that one real quick. All right. Y'all see this? This is the full hijack model right here. This is what most people don't know how to manage and don't know how to use. This is what most people try to avoid in whatever way, shape, or form. And yes, regulating the nervous system is amazing, but moving through it fast and changing things so that you can just up level, I mean, that's my speed, okay? I've spent decades regulating. I just want to change life. So hijack's going to happen, right? This is your programmer moment. This is the opportunity where everything can change, where you apply the one move in the one category that's in your face right now. And most people try to plan how to do this differently. Most people try to, map the perfect thing. No, you got to do it in real time and it's going to feel real messy and real scary and like nothing's going to work out and everything's going to fall apart. It gets easier. Once you do this one move, your code's rewritten. Now you just got to pass the 3 tests, right? And nobody talks about that one. There's one for your literal neurological wiring. You're already wired, right? There's already highways running up and down in your body. It is metabolically expensive to change that. Your body's definitely going to try to do everything to conserve energy and keep running the program it already knows. So to change, there's a test to pass. You have to get through the hijack, right? The body symptoms, the emotions, all the things. Test 1 passed. Great for the wiring. Second test is the universal test. The universe is all about balance. The universe will make sure that there is a balance maintained no matter what, and also determines how what flows to you. Now, there's all sorts of research behind this now. We are literally electricity. We can't even see what keeps us alive, right? Because it's electrical impulse. Universe works the same way. It sends us stuff based on the original agreement between our nervous system and the electricity that lights the world. So it takes a lot of energy to reroute what shows up to us in real time via 3D life. So the universe is going to do a check, right? And then the third test, free will. This is the one that most people are like, screw it. If it hasn't worked yet, it's not going to. Because this is the ultimate, is this what you really want? This is the final check. And most people are terrified of someone else's free will test, specifically in relationships, specifically with clients in business, Whatever the case, it is impossible to rewrite your game board without people being involved. It's impossible. So those are the 3 tests to pass to completely change your amygdala set point, write the new game board, and now you have a new baseline. And then you get to do it again at the next expansion, but it gets way easier. So that's how you reset everything. Stop mirroring here. And that's a simplified version. So the one move's not a strategy. It's just the one move you do in the area that's taking all your energy of life. And you do it on repeat, typically about 3 times. Now there's more nuances to it, right? But that's the simplified version. So the moment you catch the cycle, the blueprint goes live, everything's different. And I have had, actually, there's a woman on here, I'm not going to say it out loud in case you don't want me to share directly, but got a different version of her husband on like the following day. We did some really deep work on this. And it was like, can I say this out loud, Melissa? Awesome. I think what you told me was you were shocked at what was different. And I was like, you'd have never believed it, right? And you're like, no, not at all. Wouldn't have believed it one bit. That's the amygdala talking. But when you shift this and use a simple formula, you will get a different version of people. Mind blowing. It's not them, it's you, which is awesome because you can change it. So there's a whole bunch I skipped, but I want to talk through real quick. There's a little bit more. Hey, Caroline, the offer docs dropped, right? Cool. Hey, for anyone who needs to go, as a thank you for showing up, if you have questions or if you're like, how do I implement this at a different level, or help me with my one move, or help me with my game plan moving forward, I'm doing calls, right? I'm gonna offer y'all a call, and there's a 72-hour window because in the blueprint, I'm opening it for 5 women, but I'm offering a call to everyone, whether you move or not. So it's a thank you and a let me help you if you're looking for some help right now. But if anyone were to know, where are you defaulting to most of the time, player, programmer, or character? And if you were to know, what would your one move be? Anyone got anything? You can raise your hand, or hey, Caroline, is there anybody want to share? Or is everybody like, I don't know, I'm so confused. Anybody got a one move? Cool. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to get to Q&A on all of this because that's a pointed question. I don't think I'd be able to answer this either if I just took all this information in. All right. So what we covered today. Yeah, we got there. So everything you've seen is the diagnostic, right? Your amygdala set point. It's going to rule your love, your money, your happiness, your health, period. I saw this on repeat for about 13 years in clinical practice. And it can change fast. And then the reason that the person goes back is because, well, it was safe and they knew how to deal with that. So anyway, the set point, the hijack, the spectrum, character, player, programmer. This is the exact structure that I walk through with my clients to rewire their entire operating system. And the most fun thing to do with it is get a fulfilling life and make money by being who you are. So it sticks, it works fast. It usually makes sense on the other side. There's not going to be making much sense of it on the front end because of that 0 to 3 thing, pre-verbal, pre-memory, that whole thing. So we just change it, right? We just change it so you get the result. So the whole point is revealing the pattern. Your Soulful CEO blueprint wakes up when you apply the one move properly. That's where the upgrade is installed. The shift becomes sustainable, and the pattern doesn't just get interrupted. It gets completely replaced. And we track your hijack. We're going to name it. We reset it in real time. Now this is in the blueprint, right? This is so you don't leave with more to process. You leave with a completely new baseline. And you know it's working because of what happens next. But then what'll typically happen is, wow, it couldn't have been that easy. So the 3 tests, let's cover that again. The neuro test, the body has to know you're actually going to do something different. If it's going to take the energy to rewire, because it is an energy conserving machine. Anyone who's ever tried to lose weight knows, lose like physical pounds knows this. Our body's concerned with energy conservation. When it knows the shift is real, it's going to rewire, and that's metabolically expensive. So it's going to check first. So it's going to take a surge of energy up front, which is why that's the first thing to do here. The universal test, the external world responds immediately. Balance is important in the universe, so it's only gonna change what comes to you when it knows you're serious. And then the free will test, the hardest one, y'all, because it's dealing with people and self. It's the final checkpoint. This is where you get to choose freely and consciously in real time. So this is not a thing you get to plan. This is not a thing you get to prep for. It's not a rehearsal. This is literally an out of the blue, oh, I have to decide now choice. It's that fast, and it's like hijack all over again, but that's a third test. That's when you become the new human and reset the whole amygdala set point. And that's when the new you comes online. So how this rolls out in the blueprint, don't know, I've said a lot of words today. We don't just diagnose the pattern, we break it. I've already done this with many people one-on-one, and it's repeatable. It works every time. And I figured out how to make it a lot more accessible for those women who are like, my gosh, I need it, but like, I can't stop my life for 6 weeks to do this. So, here's how it looks. 1 through 4, we map out how you've been operating through your character player programmer. You see exactly where your energy's been misfiring, where you've been hijacked without knowing it, and what your system's been trying to protect you from. And this is where we pinpoint your pattern. When you know the pattern, you know the programmer moment. That easy, that easy. It's not hard, not hard at all. So that's when you're no longer reacting unconsciously, but you can decide, all right, I get to rewrite my matrix right now. What's my one move? 5 through 9, we reset the set point using the one move. It's not mindset, it's the exact decision that resets your game board neurologically, energetically, and behaviorally. This is where we interrupt the hijack when it's happening and shift direction. And then we run through the reset system to calibrate your new baseline to what you actually want versus what you had to survive till now. And this is what most people skip and where most dots fall off. It's like, oh, there's like this complete disconnect between connecting with spirit and doing your higher purpose, or doing things different in real time by building a funnel, or looking at your partner's needs, or there's more to it. And this is the more to it that's missing. So we don't just release fear, we're teaching your body that easy is safe, and it gets to be better than you've lived so far. And expansion's not a threat, it's a home. This is where life moves at the speed of your soul. Like life, business, money, love, all of it moves at the speed of your soul. Instead of trading parts of yourself for what is right now that you think you should appreciate because it could be worse. So week 10 through 12, that's where we lock in the blueprint. Using the formula, the one move that flips it, and then we calibrate your nervous system to the new baseline. You're going to know where your energy is going at all times. You'll know how to respond when the old system tries to pull you back, and you'll know how to keep moving without needing more mindset work, more strategy, or more force. At this point, you're not managing a pattern. You're the woman on the other side of it who decides what her world looks like. So that's it in a nutshell. I can't believe I got through it that fast. I skipped some things just because I hit them up front. So now we're to Q&A. We got like what, the blueprint and the offer and the call link in the chat, right? Cool. Awesome. All right. Who has questions? Because what really matters is how to apply this to life in real time. I don't know if there's any in the chat. If anyone has anything specific right now, let's hit it.
I was gonna say just at the beginning, we had a question. You mentioned a book when you were talking about the mechanisms. It was that drawing slide in regards to the quiz. And I think maybe you were talking about neurology.
Oh, but yeah, there's a book called The Human Amygdala. Amazing. I just recently picked it up, but it like outlines all of that. And there's a lot more books on it, but it is very clinical. It is very not easy to understand, but it walks through how the amygdala is 100% connected to the prefrontal cortex, uh, all of your body proprioceptive input, your organs. It's connected to your organs, both parts of your brain, the thinker of your brain, long-term memory, and visceral feeling. So anything your body feels that makes it seem like that thing you wanted to do isn't going to work, it's your amygdala.
Mm, awesome. And then the only other question I think that popped up in the chat, and then we can start taking live questions, was you were talking about the things that we experience and that our body holds on to in utero. And somebody, I think Trish, had a question about having a memory come back from regression therapy being like 3 months away from being born.
Wow. Yes. So the unconscious mind stores everything, and those memories are so powerful. Was there like a specific question about it? Was there like a
Let
feeling
me,
of sword?
I was gonna say, Trish, feel free to jump on and
Can I?
ask your. Okay.
Feel free to jump on. We're live.
Oh, you had said that you don't have memories until a certain age. I think you
Yeah,
said
yeah, yeah.
3.
Conscious memory. Conscious memory.
Yeah. Oh, oh, okay, because that was a story memory. Like when I was
No,
being
no, no.
regressed,
Great question. Thank you. No, absolutely. Like this isn't total. Thank you for that. Yes, conscious memory that you can recall it well, but going really deep like that, absolutely. Absolutely. There's 100%.
and yes, that one incident set my whole path on my life, and it was creepy. When I came back, the doctor analyzed everything with me, and he
Uh-huh.
told me that to this day, that's what set your path to try and fix people's problems.
Right, right.
Talk about powerful.
It's super powerful stuff. Super powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions about character player programmer? How
I
to,
did.
how to apply it to money, how to apply it to relationships? Oh, Melissa, you got one?
Oh, yeah, I have two.
Hey,
So
yes.
on the programmer, you said, we get to the programmer, what reality do I want to see show up? That's where we apply the new rules. And you said three things: behavior first. What was the other
Mhm.
two?
Behavior, then neurological, then energetic. There's a lot of trying to change things at the energetic level first. It's not going to work because your neurology is always going to trump it.
Okay.
I did
So
that for years. If that was true, every Reiki master would be like, have their dream life. I wish. That's what I did first.
gotcha. Okay. And the other one was you use the word processing.
Mhm.
When people say, oh, I'm processing, because
Mhm.
I had a client yesterday and she just kept saying, I'm processing. And all she was doing was looping up and making things up in her head. And I'm like, you're not processing.
Oh,
But
beautiful.
tell me what you said about processing. What
Okay.
word?
I love this. Thank you for the context too. That's going to help. So, processing is generally a fancy way to say, I don't know what to do to feel comfortable before I have to change something to get a different outcome.
So
So
fancy
I'm gonna,
way to say, go slower, I'm writing. Fancy way to say,
fancy way to say, I don't know how to do it different and it not feel awful or unsafe. Now, processing is important, but the healthy processing is integration, and that happens through life experience versus like, sorry, tell me when to.
okay, go ahead.
Um, what most people mean when they say I'm processing is I don't know what to decide. I don't want to make a decision. Or I don't want to deal with the new outcome because I don't know what that looks like yet. And I need control to feel safe.
Because I've used that so many times.
Same,
You know,
same.
through the trauma, and my
Yeah.
husband's like, how much more do you have to process? You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
it's, but I would, even though I would say I'm processing, I would really just loop back to the fear or the memories or reliving. Like, it's almost like a form of suffering
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
instead of releasing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, am I saying your name properly, Mara or Mara? Yeah, some people have delayed emotional processing. That was me. I couldn't feel emotions. So like there's an entire system to this. And women typically take a longer time to fully process something than a man. But this is the difference of, is processing a reason to not make a decision, or is process, I need to connect the dots inside before I can make a decision. So it can be, it can go in about 70 directions depending on the person. But most people, what they mean when they say, I need to process this, is I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to take this. I've not dealt with this yet. There's too much information. I don't know how to communicate what I feel. It's context dependent, really.
I was gonna jump in on that note. Something that I struggled with a lot, kind of when you and I were first starting to work together. I did that whole, okay, let me process and let me figure it out before I take any action, before I take a step. Like I wanted to know exactly what teeny tiny steps I was going to take the big step, to then think about the outcome that was going to come after. And I would hit hijack every single time. And then once I
Mhm.
learned about hijack, I was like, oh, that's not like, I don't want to be hijacked. And so the hijack avoidance started. And you said something about all trauma starting as intelligence, and
Mhm.
it coming from something that you learned that kept you safe, and now the thing that kept you safe isn't keeping you safe anymore. And like facing that hijack being the thing, like taking the action scared, that's the
Mhm.
biggest change for me that I've seen. Is I'm like, oh, I'm hijacked and I don't know how this is going to go. And I'm afraid, but I'm going to take this step afraid. And then, keep going after you move through it. So
Mhm.
I loved how you explained all of that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. And I'm seeing, I'm processing when people run over my boundaries repeatedly and ask for input. So a decision there would be like, it's a no. You don't get my input. And I don't know when you get my input. But yeah, it's really hard to draw hard lines between ourselves and other people. Uh, the links. Oh, Tommy wants the links. Can you drop the links again, Caroline? Yeah, this isn't easy. Thank you. I wish I knew. Am I saying it right? Is it Mara or Mara? But yes, it's taking time to process is also important, right? If we never have. I never did that. And now I take my own time daily. But what used to happen for me is um, having to be pushed to the point of realizing that I've never processed a thing, to now stop and process. But then it can also be used as a means to not do the hard thing. So I've used it always. So in change work, sometimes processing is very necessary. And that's when, so like Melissa, for you, if they're working with you, what was can you give me a little context on how did that go?
Here we go. Yes, she is a 17-year-old and she had broke up with her boyfriend of 2.5 years, or they had broke up because she just suffers from a lot of emotional
Mm,
issues.
mm,
And she saw him talking to another girl at school, and I look back and I'm thinking how whenever I was a teenager in high school and you see your boyfriend talking to another girl, she starts making up all this stuff and she spirals down. So her mom calls me, and but her mom also told me how she was filled with anxiety when she was pregnant with her, and it was just
okay.
really, really sad. So she was just going on like, I want to know if he told her that she was pretty. I want to know if he kissed her. I want to know if they went on a date. I want to know how many times they talked.
Is this the girl that was processing? Were you at the point of making a decision and that's when the needing to process kicked
Yep.
in?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
avoidance. That is what that is. That is what that, and
Yeah.
it's
She
hard
did-
to hear in change work. It's really hard to hear because change work means making a decision. So, okay, perfect. I just wanted to check in on that. Thank you.
Stop instead of action is what she was. But
Yeah.
she settles down. I'm like, you're on the roller coaster again. I can't talk to you when you're talking so fast. She was talking just like this, and she was like screaming and yelling, and then her mom. I mean, it's the drama triangle over and over. Her mom is feeding the fire, and
Okay.
so after 45 minutes, yeah, finally got her to calm down and make a decision. But
Gotcha. We can go over some pattern interrupts with that too.
yeah,
Perfect. Like you handled it great though. Sounds like
Yeah.
you handled- Any other questions? Character player programmer. Oh, do you have a second one, Melissa?
no, that was it. The word processing was one of them, and then the programmer is behavior first, neuro second, and energetic third. Yeah.
Something important on the processing and decision making. Deciding to do nothing is also a decision, which is perfectly fine. But a lot of people, I was one of these, right? That's why I'm so staunch on this. And I will say this loudly and boldly because this was me. I did not want to make a decision. I wanted them to be made for me or to like play the game board until something changed. But to actually decide differently, I didn't want to do it. It was just, and that's how I lived my life. But the only way to change something in life is to make a decision to either do it differently or decide to do nothing and accept things as they are.
Mhm.
So I felt the need to, that dropped in for clarification there. Cool. Anything else? Anything else? I can't believe I got done way faster than the first two. And I got a full thing that I can draw on. Did you come off mute, Adrienne? You got a question?
Yeah, I did. So you asked where we spent most of our time in that pyramid, but you also asked if we knew what our one move was.
Uh-huh.
So I'm assuming that's different for everybody. Could you give us just a little bit more context around what the one move is, how we find, I mean, I know your program helps us define that, but just can we get a little bit more info there?
Absolutely. Can you see this screen?
Yes. No,
Okay. You can't see the pictures?
no.
What? Am I not sharing? Oh, I'm not sharing the screen anymore. Hold on real quick. Hold on. Sharing screen. Here we go. Fully prepared to draw this out. I'm so glad you asked. All right. So these are the categories, right? You remember this from the quiz you took.
Yes.
And we can map this out for you right now if you want. Like I'm here for it. That's the whole point.
Okay.
The one move is going to go in the category that is taking up the most energy and returning the least. That's where the one move is applied. But when I go through the formula, which that's an option on the blueprint, I'll do this for you in addition to a few other things that I've beefed up. There's going to be a version of you, right? That is the soulful CEO that pulls all the levers. And this version of you is going to have a completely different set of needs than the version of you wherever you are right now. And that's everyone. Like we all have a set of needs we're meeting right now for ourselves. That's why we are where we are. And there's a completely different set of needs for the $1 million version of self, or the version of self living in Bali, or the version of self, name the thing, right? So there's a current identity going on. Do you remember, I don't want to pull it up on screen. Do you remember which category of the quiz was the most hijacked for you?
Identity.
Identity. Perfect. All right. So with that, gosh, I almost want to go look it up. I'm going to do it real quick on this different computer. Actually, I'm not going to do that. So it's identity. And that's pretty common. That's going to be directly correlated with here. All right. So are you cool to open this up really openly?
Sure.
Okay. How much money do you want to be making a month with your, I know you have a business. Where do you want to
Uh,
ultimately? Like, what is your goal when you're there and you're like, yes, I'm here.
I mean, right now, since I'm still building, I want to make $6,500 a month.
Okay.
That's kind of like my let's get started here goal.
Perfect. Perfect. That's what we need to know. We don't need to know where you're at right now. We're going to call that monthly recurring revenue, right? Okay. For that to happen, what needs to happen for you? Who do you need to see yourself as for that to happen? What version of you needs that a month? How does she show up in the world?
So I so as a luxury interior designer,
Okay, so we're a luxury interior designer. Perfect. Love it.
so I know that I have from my childhood, from my past, I have some baggage that's keeping me from aligning with that client.
Okay. Is it about accepting money or aligning with money? Aligning with money? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So take that and put it aside. Love it. What does the version of you have that makes $6,500 a month? How does she live?
How does she live?
Yeah, when you're making $6,500 a month, what's your schedule look like?
Um, I uh I
It's
mean, I go to yoga 4 times a week.
okay. So that's on the other side of this, right?
I mean, I do that now, but I don't always feel good about it. Like like going to a yoga class in the middle of the day, sometimes I have feelings about that.
Okay. So feeling bad about doing the things that this version of yourself would do.
Yeah, feeling like I should be working harder. I guess it's that whole, yeah.
And sometimes the one move is feeling like crap and doing it anyway. Like, how hard are you working right now? How many hours?
Um,
How many hours are you working when you make this?
ideally like 30 to 35.
Do you have to work that much?
Um, that's a good question. Um,
So it sounds like for you, I mean, like the practitioner in me is like, yeah, we got to clear all the garbage out of your old identity that like is completely out of resonance, but from here. But ideally, your one move literally maybe cutting your working hours in half. I'm guessing here because we don't have 4 hours right now to get down. Where's half? In half? Okay, ignore that. But your one move may be cutting your hours in half and proving that you can make what you're making now working half as hard. It's just proving wrong what the deepest part of you believes. Does that make sense?
yeah.
How many hours are you working right now?
Um,
Here's my goal.
I,
Would it help if I drew this out for you? Like my evolution, would it help if I did that and then help go backwards for you?
yes.
Okay. So I used to think that I had to overwork. I was somewhere around 13,000 to $20,000 months when I had brick and mortar. Now I was taking home like 3K, right? But at some point I was like, okay, this will get better. Like it varied, but I kept whatever. I built the golden prison. I took home more than this some months, but it was so transactional. It beat me up. I hated what I had to give away from myself. And uh I've still had big months, but my goal where I'm headed in the next 3 to 6 months is $10,000 monthly recurring revenue with 25 clients or less and 10 hours of delivery or less. Now that is crazy compared to what I used to do, but I put myself around people who do it and they're great humans. And what they've done is they've packaged their expertise in such a beautiful way that their free stuff is so valuable, but they've created this by systematizing things, right? But giving yourself permission to want something like that first and not feel bad about it and be caught here like I had all sorts of physical problems. My health was terrible, whatever. Giving yourself permission to want this and say, I can have that too, is step one. So if you could have it your way and you didn't have to think about all the working you're doing right now, what would your ultimate goal be to enjoy your life to the fullest as a luxury interior designer? Because that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I'm just having trouble wrapping my brain around how I could be a luxury interior designer and not work a full schedule. I mean,
So this is your amygdala saying it's not
yep,
possible, so why
I
try?
know.
This is where, how many more hours are you working right now?
I'm working probably 35 hours.
So yeah, 30 to 35 hours isn't a stretch. That needs to be cut.
But I'm not meeting my financial goals yet, so I don't see how I can.
So this is where I can't action for you. I can only tell you what to do that works. So this is where you're not wrong because your body's gonna align with whatever you've decided. And I know there's a lot more to it, like I walked through with y'all. Like it's a very neurological, construct that is there for a reason. So the only way to prove any differently is to cut your hours in half and make the same amount anyway. I don't think, who else did I had a client, she cut her hours in half and worked the same amount. Caroline Dean, how didn't you cut your hours and that's when you doubled? Can you?
I was gonna say, I was listening and relating so much. I don't know if it was necessarily that I cut back the hours that I was working, but I cut back significantly the amount of time that I spent like trying to strategize and make things happen and think about taking steps and trying to plan to take the steps. And it was like once I just stopped all of the like prepping and the thinking and the planning and started just taking action, that's when I got so many more clients and the work that I was getting paid for doubled when I stopped, doing as much of the work, quotation work that I wasn't getting paid for.
And then you like started booking 3 weeks out because you were putting hard limits on.
Yeah.
So this is are you overthinking Are you like, my thinking is when your body's not hijacked, Adrienne, you're probably thinking everything through.
Yeah, I freaking love a spreadsheet.
Cool. Spreadsheets are amazing. Leave it there and go take action. Cut your hours in half and prove yourself wrong. But again, this is exactly what we're walking through in the blueprint. And if anybody has questions, there should be a call link in there as well. But do you have more questions, Adrienne? Because like, if you've convinced yourself it won't work, it won't. The only way to prove yourself wrong is to do the thing and then figure it out on the other end. That's it. That's what I did here. You can ask Caroline Dean. I was like, I'm different, even though I have to do this differently. This one was totally different for me. Way less work for me. Panicked.
Yeah.
Panicked. Hijack.
Like full panic.
Full panic. Full hijack. Everything happened in life
In
It's
like
tough.
all of the areas.
All the areas, every area blew up internally for me.
Same.
And I did it anyway. And I was like, I'm going to live. And I will never do it the other way again because this was so much easier on me. But I believed I had to work so dang hard to put a PowerPoint together that I didn't even care about and that maybe nobody else even cared about, but it looked cool. So much easier for me to just draw on this thing and use my hand drawings and have a document that I can send out with the replay and then make a purchase product on the other side of it. But like the old me was like, but that, I've never done it like that. This is blah, 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 blah. So you get to make your own rules. Totally get to make your own rules. And here's the thing, whoever you're around, you're going to absorb via osmosis. All the things are absorbed via osmosis. Working easier and less is absorbed via osmosis. So if you're around a lot of overworkers, it's going to be real hard to switch unless you're around a lot of people who are like, I'm going to make this as easy on myself as possible because I'm going to bring the best and make plenty of money anyway.
Yeah, I mean, being a hard worker was such a badge of honor in my, basically blue collar family. So
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I get that.
There was a question in the chat from Bridget. That's a great one. And I second the question. So
Bridget, we didn't violate your one move, did we? I told her not to come. Y'all, she's amazing. She's implemented the one move and she's like, oh my God, it changed my life. What was Bridget's question?
I will read it from the chat. It says, as I'm going through my one move process this past week, I've noticed I'm feeling guilty for putting my needs first, along with feeling freedom and release of old patterns. Is it normal to feel these opposites at the same time? And is there a way to work through the guilty feeling, or do I just have to keep trusting the process? And I relate to this a lot as I'm doing some of this work, having never chosen myself first. Like, there's a lot of guilt that comes with starting to choose yourself.
It's easier to suffer than feel guilt. So that's the next problem that comes when you make plenty of money and have all the time for yourself and meet your needs first. Even though almost any woman that I know who either has a niece or a child or some other woman important to her would be like, oh my gosh, meet your needs first. But for self, it's different. And so that's the next evolution is, all right, the next problem you're going to have is feeling guilty for putting yourself first and having a good life. And we can 100% work through that. Actually, in the blueprint, we're going to elicit and move values, because if everyone else at a neurological level comes first, it's going to be really hard to work against that. And either you got to get used to feeling guilt or you got to change the driving values. And they're easy to change. Guess how you change them? Action. And if you want to change them faster, I can switch it for you, but that would be some one-on-one work. So they can be switched manually in about 30 seconds. I mean, there's a setup, right? But then you can change them quickly with action. And again, there's going to be entropy. You're going to have emotions build up and feelings. And at some point your nervous system's like, wow, this doesn't even apply. Trash it. So y'all, I, up to this event, I was feeling pressure everywhere and I don't anymore, but it was really hard to feel bad for not staying up all night reviewing this and researching all the little things that I didn't, and trusting that because I eat, sleep, and breathe this and live it, I'm good, and that y'all will love it and get what you need. Like, it was hard for me not to kill myself to justify this going well. And I'm so glad I didn't, because now my amygdala has switched. Now I know I can live. I can survive, and y'all will too. But yeah, it's a process, and we're going to address that in the blueprint. So you're good, Bridget. Any other questions, Bridget? Also, there's an emotional scale. It's in one of the drawings. At the bottom is like hopelessness and depression, and at the top is pure joy. If you cut off the hopelessness and depression, you'll also cut off the potential for pure joy. So that's the polarity of this as well. Having the resilience to feel an emotion will automatically open up at least that much of the opposite emotion that's positive. I don't know if Bridget had another question. Anything else?
I have one. I'm just turning my video on. You can't see me very well because of the weird lighting, but
Katie?
hey. Okay, so there's so much backstory. I'm not going to get into it. I recently, went to Bali. We talked about that and had some like resets and some things and frustrations when I got back because old patterns and then got a hold of it and felt like everything was just flowing, like a lot of pure joy, like a lot of pure joy. Everything felt easy, so productive, but like it just flowed. Everything was just great. There was no guilt, there was no frustration, there was no difficulty, which maybe I was in a place that isn't real. I don't know. But then Robbie had to go out of town and everything was my responsibility. We're lambing. There's a lot. And just I fell back into patterns, I think, with like my daughter of like sleeping with her, not taking time for myself, whatever. I don't know. Major shift. Became very irritable. Everything felt hard. And it just was like a switch flipped. Like from your expertise and like in the context of this call, like what happened?
Okay.
I know that might be way too much of a question for this platform, but
So the switch, no, that's good. Okay. So we're gonna get a little bit out there, right? If you're okay with this.
yeah.
A little bit past character, player, programmer, but this is 100% going to apply to all of it. We're in eclipse season right now, and everybody doesn't follow astrology right now, but things that no longer need to be happening in life are coming up to go, and they come with emotions and feelings and visceral feelings and really old patterns. And what's happening right there, I had the switch on Friday, by the way. I know I used those exact words to Caroline Dean. So
Okay.
the switch is real. And what the switch does, here's how things work. I'd rather look at your face than draw this on this. I can do this like
Good with that.
all with you or whatever.
Yeah.
So the way things come up and out to leave for good, assuming you understand hijack, assuming, or the flip switch or whatever you want to call it, assuming you understand the one move and then the 3 tests and et cetera, it has to come up viscerally, emotionally, and in your reality to actually leave. The caveat is you have to know how to apply the one move to make sure it stays gone versus pulling it back. So you're probably going to know in your mind like what to do or not to do, or like how things played out. And the way this works is stuff like that. There's going to be times, because we're all connected and yours is connected and everything. There's going to be times things come up to go, whether we can control it or not.
Mhm.
But from a leaving your body perspective and getting something different from the world and other people, it has to show up in your body, in your mind, emotionally, viscerally, and in other people. And sometimes it just shows up to be like, wow, yep, I don't want to do this anymore, or
Yeah.
what needs to change. And that gets into the 3 to 4 functions of emotional mastery. When those come up, it's one of a few things. What needs to change? What have I been missing? And what's important to me, and what's aligned and not aligned anymore.
Okay. Where can I read those without writing them down right now?
So they are, I've got a YouTube video on them. They're going to be dropped in the blueprint too. Like you'll have
Okay.
access to all that. Yeah, but those are the 4 functions of any kind of emotion coming up. The biggest thing is, what do I need that I'm not meeting? What's the new need? What have I missed? What's no longer in alignment for me? What needs to change, essentially?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Perfect.
All
Helpful?
right. Yep. It's funny that you said that about astrology because I don't follow it closely, but I had read a little bit about like what was going on right now, and I was like, that's part of and just recognizing that that's part of what's going on is helpful.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's not going to stop. It keeps getting more intense. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, great. We're going to get a breather. It just keeps going faster. And then
Mhm.
that's what a lot of people are feeling. It's like the biggest version of you is not going to slow down. It's going to keep up with the universal flow. The human
Mhm.
has choice. So it's like the human can be like, I'm freaking tired, screw this, or all right, what are we gonna do today? So
Yeah,
yeah, it seems to keep speeding up faster and faster.
I can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I was gonna ask one more question about the one move. Is that something that evolves and changes with us and our reality? So,
Mm.
like, if you've got one thing right now that you're like, oh, this is my one move that I've got to do to shift this piece of my reality. Once you move through that, is there then going to be another thing that's your next one move? And I don't know if that makes sense. I say sometimes healing feels a lot like you walk through one door and then there's another one that you've got to figure out how to open and walk through, and then there's another one that you've got to kick down and get through. Is
Yeah,
one move like that as well?
totally. Now, this is a great question, and this is why there's 5 categories. It's like the better you get at this, the more sensitive you get to stuff that doesn't fit anymore. And that's when it becomes really important to be around people who are also very attuned to that, because it's jarring for a nervous system that's so attuned to what's no longer in alignment to be around, well, in an environment that's not attuned at all and expects you to contort. So as you get more and more sensitive, uh, you'll require different things from your environment. You will, uh, your one move will totally change. And so I
Mm.
look at it right now as I have one move that serves me pretty well on a daily basis. And it's when I can, I take like a 2 or 3 mile walk, take in the outdoors. I love it. I'll either listen to a podcast or not, but just doing that for me makes me feel good. Now, it didn't at first. I didn't want to walk. I wanted to do nothing. I was like, I don't want to work out. Um, and then the ongoing one move is, what's the thing that will make my life most easiest now and pay off in the future? So
Mm.
I've got 2 going. This is a wonderful, because in the blueprint, what we're going to do, there's going to be one move that will make huge impact right now. And that's what Bridget was talking about. And there's going to be one move that's silently building the new version of you as you go, so that it doesn't feel like you're leaping Mount Everest to get there. It's like, oh, this is the next logical step. This is way easier than it would have been prior.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Love it. Were there any questions in the chat that I didn't? Did everybody get access to the call link and the doc? Because I'm closing that down on it's a 72-hour window. I don't know if I told y'all. Oh, thanks, Melissa. Cool, great. Bridget's good. Trish, and anyone else who wants to know, what we're gonna cover is your game plan moving forward, and then like how you want to apply it. Again, there's a 72-hour window for I'm opening the blueprint for 5-1. You saw what that looks like. But aside from that, the call is a part of, thank you for coming. Let's move you forward however you need to move forward. Thanks, Joe Neal. All good? All good? Any other questions? I feel like there's one lingering, but it could be just me.
Okay, there's me then. Ugh,
Okay.
the line.
Okay.
Just kidding. So you on that call, will you, if we are pretty dialed down to like, is my one move this or this, like, will you help us like
Mhm. Yep.
figure that out?
Yeah, yeah. There's gonna be, yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out what's the actual thing that you can't see, because it's always invisible to the person. Like sometimes I can't see my thing because it's unconscious. It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's usually pretty easy for someone outside of your bubble to help bring clarity to what's pre-programmed.
Okay. So that's gonna be part of that too.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
exactly. Cool.
That was my lingering question. If it was me, there might have been someone else you were detecting. I don't know.
No, we're gonna do what we can. We're gonna get you a game plan moving forward. Or whatever makes the most sense for you.
Yeah.
And then figure out if anything from there did or didn't make sense and if you're clear moving forward.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. Last call for questions. The next workshop's going to be on your next soulmate client because oh, you're welcome, Celine. So that'll be coming up. I don't know when, but it's going to be structured a lot like this. It's going to be different info though. This was a lot of foundation material. It may be a little bit overwhelming. The cool thing is though, once it's applied, everything just opens up and then it's way easier. So awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming. And yeah, can't wait to talk to y'all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.